Hello everybody. So today I wanted to talk about the murder of Brian Thompson. And now, for people not aware what I'm talking about, this is the CEO in USA of United Healthcare, I think it was called. This is an insurance program that gives people insurance for healthcare issues. And the murderer, at least the suspect, is a 25-year-old guy from, I can't remember where he's from, but anyway, America. And so a lot of people are commenting and they're saying that he did a good thing by murdering him. And so I wanted to give my opinion on this as to whether or not I think it's a good thing. So I'll start off by saying, so I'm here in Australia. In Australia this would never happen. Not the murder, though we don't have that many guns in Australia either, but just having a CEO of a healthcare insurance scheme. I mean, we have healthcare insurance here in Australia, but the thing is that we have free healthcare as well. So something around 90% of Australians get free healthcare. We get public healthcare. So if there's something that's wrong with us, we go and get it. Now it could be 100%, but there's some people that just prefer the better treatment. So I'll compare the difference between private and public healthcare here in Australia. So if let's say that I fall over and break my leg, I can go to a public hospital, they'll see me, they'll give me everything I need pretty much straight away for free. And I might have to pay for some medicine, but I'll probably get that pretty cheaply. Total cost might be around $50. Now if I was under a private healthcare for something like that, the difference is I'd get a private bed, I'd get better treatment, and I'd probably get a doctor that was a bit more experienced. But generally there wouldn't be that much of a difference. Now the big difference is more for things with a big waiting list. So for example, let's say that I have cancer, for example, and I've got to wait a year before I'm treated. Although that's probably not a good example, but I don't know, let's say I want to get a hip replacement. And that one I think's got a couple of years of waiting. So if I was on private, I'd be seen straight away and I'd get better treatment. Now, private of course costs a lot of money, depending on your private health insurance scheme, and you pay a lot of money and you get treated accordingly. And there's different levels, and the more you pay, the better you get treated, and the more quickly you get treated, and by the higher level. And there's some things that you can't be seen at all about under public health care. So for example, let's say that you've twisted your throat and you have difficulty swallowing because of it. That's considered to be elective. It's never going to kill you, it's just annoying. So for something like that, you can't be seen publicly. And you'd have to be seen privately, and the cost is about $120,000 to get an operation to fix it. Now if you were under private, you could get it done and then your cost would go down to $20,000. Still quite expensive. But so that sort of thing is a situation where you'd prefer to have private healthcare. Now if you've got that issue existing and you're going to private, you can't see it under private. They won't see you because you already had it. So there's different situations where people say, well, we'd have to pay for that one, so private health insurance comes in. Now here in Australia they don't really deny claims, mainly because you could always go public, and also because I think a lot of the people that go on it tend to be the richer people. That's not exclusively rich, there's some rich people that don't want to get private health care, and there's some people who are not rich who pay for it even though it's expensive for them, because they can work out that it's going to end up being cheaper. But generally speaking, it tends to be richer people who do it, and the richer people know about the law and they know about lawyers, and they'll sue them if they try to deny claims. So they don't tend to deny claims, and it'd have to be something pretty extraordinary for them to deny it. So the situation that they have in America couldn't happen in Australia. So if the CEO of a health insurance scheme was murdered in Australia, there would be an outrage. There wouldn't be praise. But in America it's a different system. So they have a system where they don't have public health. Interestingly, they do have public education. I don't understand why. We have both public and private education, both public and private health. They have public education, they don't have public health care. I don't know why not, but they don't. And not only that, but private healthcare costs a lot more than private healthcare costs here in Australia. And so the amount that you'd be paying is extraordinarily high. And one thing, like I went to USA and I needed to see a GP over there, and I had medical insurance, so I paid $1,000 to get medical insurance for travel insurance. And I thought, well, that'll cover me. And they said to me I had to pay $150 US in spite of having the medical insurance, so that's about $250 Australian, to see a GP. And I was like, what? That's free here in Australia, even without insurance. And the thing is, if an American came to Australia without insurance, they would pay $90. So why am I paying $250? This is $90 Australian. I'm paying $250 with insurance. They're paying $90 here without insurance. That's not fair. And in fact, if they had insurance and they came here, it'd be free. I have insurance, I go over there, it's still $250. If I don't have insurance, it's $400 American, which is like $700. That's just to see a GP for 15 minutes. That's without the medication, that's without the operation. So that's an absurd difference. It's an unfair difference. And now I don't know how common that is. I don't go to USA a lot, but that difference in prices is just extraordinary. And I never had to have an operation when I was in USA, but just the difference in price is just absurd. So, and they have to pay for medical emergencies where you die otherwise. We would never have to pay for that sort of thing. So what they have there, so they have insurance schemes. Most people are on insurance, and then you get it cheaper or sometimes free, depending on your insurance level. You see, here we have insurance would be for better treatment. There it's still for basic treatment. So for here it'd be the difference between a basic doctor who doesn't care about you and a special doctor who's waiting hand for you. Private healthcare in Australia, you get a specialist doctor who's like, hello, and they give you red carpet treatment. In America, you have to have that just for your basics. And you still don't get red carpet treatment even with insurance. So it's a very greedy system, and I think it's a very corrupt system. And I'd say the same thing about their idea of having tips, which they shouldn't have. They should just have a basic minimum wage that people can live on. Anyway, shouldn't be up to the customer to tip them. Anyway, so basic thing is, so this guy was the head of a medical insurance scheme, and he was murdered. And a lot of people are saying, well, he deserved it. He was denying claims. Now, is it his personal responsibility for this, or is it America's? So USA has had this system for 200 plus years, where they're very capitalistic, they're very greedy, and they have everything private. Where you've got to pay for everything. There's no public things. There's no minimum wage or very little minimum wage. People have to be tipped, and where you have to pay exorbitant amounts for medical necessity. So I'd argue the system is wrong, and it's not this person's individual fault. But, you know, some people are saying, well, no, we agree. Now, I agree personally. I think that it is a bad system. But it's also a system that Americans want to have. I mean, I can tell Americans and I'll say to them, hey, you should stop having tips. And they'll argue with me, they'll punch me, they'll say how unfair it is, you should tip people because they deserve it. And I'm like, no, here in Australia you'd get $28 an hour for being a waitress. In America you get $2. They don't need tips in Australia because you're getting $28 an hour, you can live on that. It's not a great amount of money, you're not going to get rich on that, but you can live on it. And depending on the restaurant you might get 40 or 50 if it's a top level restaurant. But even your basic restaurants, you still get your $28 an hour. So why are they getting $2 in America or $7? Why do they have to pay such huge amounts for healthcare? You know, why shouldn't the government come in and say, hey, look, you know, this should come out of your taxes, or at least a portion of it? Oh, because they want to spend their taxes on military and on guns and make sure that they can send weapons to Ukraine. We're not doing any of that. You know, we just be friendly with people. We don't have to have that. So anyway, so people in America, they'll back up that thing and they say, no, this is what we love. We love all this greed, but then suddenly they don't love this greed when they're encouraging a person murdering somebody because they represent this greed. Now, perhaps this is a conversation starter and they'll then say, maybe we should have at least a basic version of free healthcare. Maybe we should have something to stop this. But it kind of reminds me of that movie, The Joker, or just Joker, the recent one, and I don't mean the sequel, I haven't seen the sequel. But in this one, Arthur Fleck, who's the Joker, he murders somebody on TV and he's praised for it. Because the man he murdered was considered to be a bad person, an evil person. Isn't that the same sort of situation that we're going into here? And, I mean, isn't the Joker sort of a big villain? And then aren't we encouraging this man? I mean, I don't think this man will get out of jail. He'll probably be in jail for life. But, you know, maybe there'll be more murders of CEOs. And maybe that'll end up changing the system. But isn't this kind of the wrong way to do it? I don't know. It's, like, isn't this CEO's personal responsibility for the fact that they have a medical system that is so cruel and greedy and corrupt? Where you're scared to go to the doctor, and you'll only go to the doctor if, like, your life depends on it, and you have to save up for it. You know, that's an extremely corrupt system. I mean, you know, I'd be going to the doctor now to get them to sign some papers and have to pay $700. You know, I'm going to get that for free today. I'm outside my doctor's right now. And I don't have insurance. Don't need it because it's probably too expensive to get insurance here, and I'm not rich enough to afford it. In America, you need to have insurance because you need to, and then he's denying claims. Now, maybe he's more corrupt than some of the others. He's denying claims, but the system is the corrupt thing, not him. And is it reasonable to be praising a murderer? I mean, I don't know, people have praised murderers for a while. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, as they say, and as it's true. Because freedom fighting and terrorism is the same thing. We just had a coup in Syria that we all praised, and we called it a revolution, and we called the government a regime. Now, I don't know much about it, but that's a coup, mate, and that's a government they toppled. So, but we're just using different words because we want to praise it. And got the thing in Ukraine. Ukraine had a coup a few years ago, but we call that a revolution. We call the democratically elected group a coup. We call Russia a dictatorship, and we're like, didn't they just have an election? Weren't they voting? How is that a dictatorship? I mean, maybe it's a corrupt democracy, but it's still democracy. I don't know, people just change these words to suit themselves, and maybe this guy, we told, he'll be called a hero. A lot of people are calling him that. And I wonder if maybe instead of calling him a hero, they could perhaps have a better medical system, a fairer healthcare system, that at least had a basic free system for people. At least, even if it's not a very good system, at least have a basic system. I mean, I'm not saying our public health system here in Australia is perfect. There's a lot of things it doesn't cover, and I wish it would. It doesn't cover dentists. I try to get pet insurance, that's insane. But childcare you've got to pay huge amounts for. You know, I think we should have dentistry free as well, at least a basic version of it. I think that childcare should have a basic version of it that's free. So we're not perfect, but I think we're in a better situation than America, and you'd never have that happen in America. And if a CEO of a healthcare insurance scheme, and we have healthcare insurance schemes here, if they were murdered, there would be outrage in Australia. But in America, it's being praised. So I think that says that the system is bad. I don't think this man was, well, maybe he was bad, but he's part of the system. And if you're killing your own system, maybe you should look at your system and see maybe this system needs to be changed. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye bye now.